Today on Open Minds UFO Report, the media got all the facts wrong regarding an alleged Russian UFO video. The first police officer on scene will speak at Travis Walton's 40th anniversary event, and Orb UFOs videotaped moving against the wind. Your Open Minds UFO Report starts now. Hello and welcome to the Open Minds UFO Report. My name is Alejandro Rojas. When the media covers UFO stories, they often do not do their due diligence investigating the background of the story, such as the case with an alleged Russian UFO video that has been doing the rounds. The misinformation started when the website UFO Sightings Daily posted a video that was uploaded to a Russian YouTube account on August 5th, 2015. The title of the video, translated from Russian using Google Translate, reads, UFO Russia, Strange Lights Over the Baltic Sea. Although there was little to go on, UFO Sightings Daily claimed the video was taken on August 5th and took the title for face value, claiming the video also came from Russia. The Mirror Online picked up the story and repeated these details. The video actually first gained some popularity a year ago when another dubious UFO video site posted it with the sensational title, Russia at War with UFOs, ? Weird lights over the Baltic Sea again, UFO sightings. Typically, videos like this can be assumed to be hoaxes. The website that posted the video a year ago has posted many hoaxed UFO videos. It is also always questionable when the original source is not referenced. However, this time the video was not hoaxed, just taken from another YouTuber and reposted. The original video was posted on September 10th, 2014, and the original poster claimed to have taken the video a day earlier on September 9th. The video was posted on a YouTube site under the name Mariusz Bilski. The video doesn't seem to be a hoax. The title of the video, translated from Polish, is UFO Over the Bay of Gdańsk. The description reads, Yesterday I witnessed something that I recorded. UFO or try the Russian missiles in the Baltic, do not know. But what you see is the second of the evening, such a situation at an interval of 25 minutes. Unfortunately, the first one that was more spectacular I could not record. A similar video from the area, which also does not appear to be a hoax, was posted on September 14th, 2014. The YouTube account is called Reese Oblazim. The video is apparently from the same area as Bilski's video, and on the same day. The video is titled, translated from Polish, Hell, Lights Over the Open Sea. Hell is a Polish peninsula in the Bay of Gdańsk. The description reads, I am waiting for your comments. It is certainly not a plastic bag in the wind. I would add that this phenomena of light appeared twice. First came one cluster of lights, and after a few minutes of the second. In total, 3 videos are combined. Data is around 9/9/2014, 18/17. In both videos, mysterious lights can be seen over the ocean, and the videos are actually very interesting. The lights are too bright and last too long to be Chinese lanterns, and they do not move like airplanes or helicopters. One possibility is that they are military flares. Military flares are very bright, and in cases where the flares are far off, smoke from the flares cannot be seen. The Mirror Online has been covering UFO stories on a regular basis. However, this is a case where the facts were incorrect and the story was over-sensationalized. This is not the only time the Mirror has been accused of getting the story wrong recently. We interviewed the Huffington Post's Lee Spiegel about another recent story of the Mirrors in which the veracity has been challenged. So you and I have talked about this Russian video and what happened with that, but you've also had a situation you've ran across where the Mirror Online didn't get the story right.
Well, the first that I heard of this story, I think was probably either something that you had written or was in my daily Google alert for aliens, and because the word aliens was in the headline of the Mirror, I opened up that page, and there was this amazing headline that said, peace-loving aliens tried to save America from nuclear war, claims moon mission astronaut Edgar Mitchell. And I went, wait a minute. I know Edgar. I've interviewed him many times over the years, and it doesn't sound like the kind of thing that he would say to anybody. I mean, if he had said something like that to me in private, he would always say something like, "Oh, please don't quote me on that. We'll keep this between us." Um, and so I thought, well, and there were a couple of other quotes in that story that they attributed to him, and I thought, I don't know. I think I better contact Edgar, because if he says that he said those quotes, I'll ask him why. But if he didn't say those quotes, well, there's a good story right there. So I contacted him, and he got back to me right away, and I sent him the mirror story. I said, Edgar, did you say these quotes that are in the story? And if you did, why? Why do you say these things? He got back to me really fast, and he said, no, I don't know where the mirror got that story. Those quotes didn't originate with me, and the whole thing was made up. Now, I may think things like that, and I may have said things like that in private with private individuals, like you, but I'm very cautious, and he's always been careful about his attitude, his public stance, because he's done a lot of interesting things. He has a lot of strong connections in the UFO field and outside of the UFO field and in science. And he's gone on record, as you know, of saying that he does believe that not only have we been visited by extraterrestrials, but we probably still are. And he thinks it might even be possible that they could have a base on the moon. It's a great place to check out what's going on planet Earth from a close distance. So I wanted to make sure about this. And so rather than just write the story and say Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell claims that the mirror lied, made up stuff, I contacted the writer of that story from the mirror. I sent him an email and introduced myself. I said, I'm doing a follow up, my own follow up version of the story that you guys put out there about Edgar Mitchell. And Edgar tells me that he never said any of these things to you. How do you respond to that? And the guy got back to me very quickly. It was all through email. Well, I don't know what Edgar Mitchell is saying, and I'm insulted as a journalist if he thinks that he can tell you that he never spoke to me, because I actually have my good notes, and I can tell you that I interviewed him back in May, and he did say those things, and I stand by my story. And so, what kind of a story are you going to write in the Huffington Post? And I said, well, I haven't made that decision yet. I wanted to see how you were going to respond to that. I'll get back to you. And I went to my editor, Buck Wolf, and Buck, and I said, here's what the guy from the Mirror said, and he's standing by his story. So Buck says to me, well, you got to take it one step further. You got to contact someone in the editorial division at the Mirror and ask them if they also stand by that story. So I tracked down an editorial manager there, and also through email. And I said, one of your writers put this story out about astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and he's telling me that he actually did speak to Mitchell. How do you respond to that? And the guy got back to me right away and said, well, if our writer stands by his story, then so do we. So now the story is back in your hands. Well, okay, thanks. Uh, and so based on that, I put my story together, and I named both the writer in the story and the editorial guy and said, this is how they responded. And according to them, they did talk to Edgar Mitchell. And I even went a step further again, and I said to the writer, I said, you said that you had notes that you took, that you actually did talk to Edgar Mitchell. Do you have any recollection in your notes that in order to contact Mitchell in the first place, did you have to go through an assistant or his secretary to set up the interview so that you have those kinds of records so you can prove? Well, I'll check into that and I'll get back to you. and he said he couldn't find that in his notes. So then I said, well, how exactly did you interview him? Did you perhaps record the conversation? Because if you recorded his conversation, then as a way of accurately getting all the quotes from someone who you interview, then you'd have it all on tape. You could prove that you recorded them. And I never heard from the guy again. So I actually thought, and I told my editor, I said, on the day that we publish the story, I'll bet we're going to hear from the Mirror, that the Mirror is going to try and slap us with a lawsuit. And I really thought that. Never heard a peep out of them after that.
Yeah.
So,
And it's frustrating that that story got picked up by other media outlets. So did this Russian one. But we've talked about this before. And unfortunately, especially in these UK tabloids, they've really gone the way of the old school tabloid Inquirer kind of bat boy thing with UFOs, where they're grabbing the sensational, they're not verifying any facts or information, and they're using a lot of sources that you and I know are not credible sources, sources that often hoax videos and UFO situations. So it's unfortunate that happens, and I guess, what is your feeling about that?
Well, it happens too often, Alejandro. It's almost as if the Mirror and the Daily Mail, what's the other one, the Essex, it's like they're in competition with each other to out hoax each other, and they don't seem to care about the results of the stories as long as they think that they can pull in a really good audience. And they also apparently don't think anybody's going to catch them.
It's a good thing you're keeping an eye on this, and it's great that you're informing, your readership, which is a very large amount of people, what's going on, so they know what's credible and what's not. But thanks
I hate to do that too. I don't want to be a policeman.
Yeah.
And I don't think you do either. But geez, we have to keep people honest about the stuff that they're reading out there and that they're reporting on. So it's like it's up to you and me.
Well, and our readers can't always do that research themselves.
Yeah.
So we've got to do that for them, and I think you like we feel incumbent that we've got to make sure and set the record straight. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alejandro. I appreciate the time.
On a cold winter night nearly 40 years ago, Travis Walton went missing. Desperate to find him, Walton's co-workers called the police, and when the first officer arrived to hear the men's story, he was told what has become one of the most amazing and famous accounts in all of ufology. Now, 40 years later, that officer will share his thoughts on what he was told and how he feels about their mind-boggling claims now that several decades have passed. At about 7:30 p.m. on November 5th, 1975, logger Ken Peterson called the police to report a missing person. Deputy Sheriff Chuck Ellison met Peterson, along with 5 of his co-workers, in a shopping mall parking lot to get the details about what had happened. That is when Peterson and the other loggers told Ellison that Walton had been beamed by a UFO and was now missing. The men knew the police would not believe them. However, in his book on the experience, Fire in the Sky, Walton wrote that upon hearing the story, Ellison exhibited exceptional cool and reserve. After the crew finished their story, Peterson asked, "You don't believe us, do you?" Ellison responded, "No, I wouldn't say I don't believe you, though you've got to admit it sounds pretty wild." Ellison then radioed the sheriff, who brought more men, and a large manhunt ensued. Walton showed up 5 days later. Ellison has not spoken publicly of the events of those few days often. He was quoted as saying that the men seemed genuinely startled and that if they were acting, they were awfully good at it. Otherwise, he has not said much about the case. However, he is now committed to joining Walton and other witnesses and investigators from when the events took place on a panel at the 40th anniversary event of the alleged UFO sighting. The event is being called the Skyfire Summit, and the activities begin on November 5th, 2015. UFO researchers and witnesses to Walton's UFO case will speak over the weekend near where the sighting took place. Given the number of witnesses to the event, Walton's case stands alone when it comes to credibility. No one is quite sure what opinions or recollections Ellison is going to share, but given his appearance and that of the other witnesses, the Skyfire Summit should prove to add even more insight into a case that has endured nearly 40 years of scrutiny. A Utah witness in Salt Lake County is reported watching and videotaping 4 orb-like objects moving in the opposite direction of the wind, according to a report submitted to the Mutual UFO Network, also known as MUFON, Witness Reporting Database. The witness says they were standing outside at about 6:40 p.m. on March 29, 2015, when the objects were first seen. "I first saw 4 objects together," the witness stated. "Then one left and then the other 2 stayed stationary." The witness then began videotaping the event, reporting that the objects slowly drifted east until they were out of sight. MUFON's Utah State Director Erica Lukes and State Section Director Heather Geeson investigated and closed the case as an unknown. At first he thought they might have been balloons, but began to realize they were not moving with the wind, the investigators stated in their report. After reviewing the weather data, which states that the wind was moving in the opposite direction of the objects, and speaking with the witness at length and reviewing the video, these objects are not behaving in the way weather balloons or Google Loon balloons do. They continued, "I will also not rule out drones, but at this point I will classify this as an unknown. If new information is obtained, I will amend the file and case disposition." Not everyone agrees with the investigators' conclusions. A comment left by an OpenMinds.tv reader claiming to be a pilot reads, "As a pilot, I know that the wind can move in different directions over the same location depending on the altitude. Just because the wind is moving in one direction at ground level does not necessarily mean it is moving in the same direction above you. In as little as 1,000 feet attitudinal, it could be moving contrary to the ground wind direction. I have seen radical differences between ground and 2,500 feet. Visit the story at openminds.tv and let us know what you think. That's your Open Minds UFO report for today. You can find these stories and more at openminds.tv. We post fresh UFO news daily. You can also follow us on Twitter at OpenMindsTV, and you can find us on Facebook. Don't forget to register for the International UFO Congress, the Guinness World Record holding largest UFO convention. Early registration is open now, but will be closing soon, so act quickly to reserve your spot at the lowest price available all year at ufocongress.com. Let us know if you enjoyed today's episode by liking the episode on YouTube and leaving us your comments in the section below. You can also download our podcast Open Minds UFO Radio on iTunes or at openminds.tv/radio. Thanks again for joining us today for OpenMinds.tv. I'm Alejandro Rojas.